Welcome in to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Barrett. Today we're going to talk about blind spots. We all know we have them in our cars and we see it every day when we're riding to work. Well, I want to talk about blind spots when it comes to your money. And in particular, I want to talk about wealthy blind spots, and I'll explain what I mean here. So stay tuned, but it's going to make sense and it's going to matter for everyone. And I don't care what age or stage you are in your life, is going to pertain to you. I'm going to bring up two in particular that I think are paramount to the success of your financial future. But before we get started, make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. All right, let's get into it. Okay, the first thing I want to share very openly is defining wealth. And I've always shared in 19 years of being in the financial services industry that wealth really is determined, in my opinion, by the observer, by the seer, by the person, by the investor in our world, by the client. Now, we can put a number attached to it, things like that, and you might call that more high net worth and things like that, but it's all subjective. But I think in general, whether you consider yourself high net worth or wealthy or not, like everyone else, we tend to underestimate the things I'm going to bring up today, like longevity or rising costs in retirement or inflation, or maybe even the emotional impact of our current lifestyle. This is true of everybody. And so thinking about that as a financial advisor and working through this with our clients, I wanted to bring up these, I'll call them anecdotal and experience-based blind spots, because let's be fair, retirement is so much more than your finances or than your money. And I think that might be a message for somebody thinking that that's all it is, and it is not. I can tell you that. Now, for those of you who watch our show every week and know anything about my story and what I share, I talk about this all the time, that retirement, the word retirement, doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be 65 years old, okay? It really means when you become financially free from another paying person or job, okay? You might know it as a career or a job, whether that's in your 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s, whatever it is. Retirement means different things to different people. Now, if wealth, just the thought of wealth were enough, just money, people that I've been talking about, like affluent people, would have no issues, right, theoretically, in transitioning into their retirement years. Wouldn't you agree? But if you talk to a high net worth person or a wealthy person, they'll likely tell you a different story. I like doing this show every week because I get to share my stories that I've dealt with for nearly 2 decades with clients sitting kneecap to kneecap. And it's interesting to note studies that we've actually seen of wealthy Americans. In fact, I actually came across a study done by Northwestern Mutual. They did a study and they found that they share, wealthy and unwealthy, however you want to look at it, they share a pair of blind spots. These two that I actually brought up, in fact, was a perfect article for this that I was reading when it comes to retirement planning. And by the way, when I mean wealthy people or affluent people, I'm sharing this simply because you may be watching this video or have been sent this video and might say, well, I'm not wealthy. Or, I always tell Veronica, my wife, when we're at a party or something like that, or a church event, or they always ask me, okay, well, what do you do for a living? And my wife says, oh, Brad's a financial advisor. And almost without fail, it's interesting because some of the quips I get are often like, oh, I wish I had some wealth to manage, as a wealth manager. And I think, what we do isn't just for the wealthy. Our job is to help you attain wealth how you would desire it. And it's not because of just a money perspective, like I shared a minute ago. What I'm going to talk about here, but it's from a lifestyle perspective, what you want for your family. That's true wealth. And I think recognizing and getting ahead of some of these blind spots I'm going to bring up, the earlier you can do it, the better. And it can mean the difference, honestly, between having joy versus like anxiety in your retirement. And more importantly, the retirement challenges that we all face specifically, and even for wealthy people, they're not unique to them. Money alone, this is what I want to share. Money alone won't spare you from these blind spots. That's what I'm trying to get at here, okay? So you can't out-earn this. You can't out-save this. You can't out-invest this, okay? That's why I want to bring these up, and I think it's so important for today. The first blind spot, getting into it, is longevity and legacy. Now, I talk about this a lot on our show and in our practice here at One Capital Management, because we're living in an age where we are just naturally and somewhat not naturally, right? However you want to put it, living longer. I think people in general, whether wealth or otherwise, tend to underestimate their life expectancy. And it's often, believe it or not, by more than just a couple of years. I mean, right now, the average high net worth person in this study done by Northwestern Mutual said they expect to live, this is what they were putting on their plan, they expect to live to age 81. Now, given their affluence, if you want to call that, in that world, and ability to afford like preventative care, an advisor might suggest their plan for retirement should be designed to last maybe till age 100, which, by the way, is significantly longer than their life expectancy. Now you might be thinking, why? Well, we've had advances in healthcare and lifestyle improvements, I think, in general. I think, having increased life expectancy worldwide across the globe. And I'm no doctor here. I'm, again, anecdotal and experience-based for my clients who I've seen for almost, again, 2 decades. They kind of grow into their age and just seeing all these things going on. Now, while it's true, I think that not everyone will make it to 100, okay, just to be clear, or triple digits. I think there's reasonable chance many people actually will, or said differently, they'll live longer than they're anticipating. And I think a good financial plan has to factor in the possibility of living longer. Again, as I just shared just recently on this blind spot, this first blind spot of longevity and legacy, money's not going to fix that. You see what I'm saying? It will aid in the ability to not underestimate it, but it's not going to factor into someone who has $500,000 of lifetime savings or someone who has $2 million. They have the same problem. They're both underestimating it, okay? Life expectancy will likely be longer than they're expecting. And I think this one in particular, underestimating longevity, has some serious consequences, particularly in the financial world, right? Especially leaving legacy, for example, right? Which by the way, including the wealthy or the affluent, I think vulnerable to, sacrificing other meaningful financial goals. In this study, again, the Northwestern Mutual study, it actually found that as wealthy people age, their confidence in their life savings grows. But at every stage of the retirement journey, they're underestimating their lifespan. So like the goalpost just keeps getting kicked out, right? But get this is what the study said. It's not just by a couple years, it's by up to 2 decades, 20 years. They're misjudging their exposure to other retirement risks that could occur over that 20-year period. Things like rising inflation and taxes, or long-term care and insurance needs, healthcare costs, market volatility, and there's a whole bunch more you can bring up, right? Tons here to unpack, but what's interesting, when told about the 20-year gap between their expectations and a possible reality, in this study of wealthy Americans in particular, they're not particularly worried, that they will outlive their life savings, but they're more concerned that these extra costs could diminish the wealth they're leaving to their generational legacy. So here's the divide, if you will. Wealth means different things to different people. So when I say wealthy or affluent, I'm not talking specifically to one sector of people out there. I'm talking to everybody, because this might be the diverging point where you have people that are less worried about running out of their money, but more worried about leaving money to their kids, or we call their legacy, whereas others who may not get, to this higher mark of $500,000 or $1 million in retirement savings, and kind of, in that camp where they're more concerned about running out of money, because they're also underestimating, again, same blind spot, they're also underestimating their life expectancy, but the results of what they're worried about may be different. Again, there's no difference in the affluence versus the non-affluent of underestimating their life expectancy. So this is where a good, I think, financial advisor has to meet you where you are. There's no judgment being thrown. And I always share this because my job is to always be agnostic. My job is to work for my clients, whether they have $50,000 or $5 million. My job is to work with them to be able to create the plan that makes sense for them, to create the success that they want to see out of their plan, which leads me to my second blind spot. The second blind spot I want to bring up, I'm going to call it the purpose. So if you think about your purpose, our purpose of our lives, it has much more to do with than just money. Wouldn't you agree? It's all about like things like expectations. And in reality, I mean, on average, wealthy people that I've been across that are nearing retirement, their sense of personal purpose and feelings about things like hobbies and interests and passions, they kind of peak. But interestingly, once they transition into retirement, it goes down. It doesn't just peak, it goes down. And this is what this study actually found, that wealthy Americans, their feelings were influenced by 2 key factors: loss of social status and a tyranny of choices, otherwise said paralysis by analysis. Now, as it says in this study now, many define their identity and purpose through their work, and those structures and social connections can actually, be hard to replace. In fact, several Americans told them, the Northwestern Mutual study, that retirement can feel like dropping out of society. Trip on that for a second. Think about this. So people think when you have a bunch of money in the bank, like you're super happy. Like, trust me, it's not the case. And as a result, these people, they're seeking opportunities to serve as like consultants or a mentor and find value in maintaining some small practice, maybe for a select clients. It's very interesting. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just an interesting note in this study. And I think one way to avoid or at least mitigate the impact of this purpose loss, so to speak, is to recognize the possibility right now for you that it could happen. I think a lot of times when we do planning, I talk to clients, we have to account for everything. And sometimes they're like, well, how do I do that? I don't even know what to account for if it's not on my radar. Well, that's where an advisor comes in. It's our job. I've been down this road before. I've seen a lot of things that most of my clients that are coming in have not, because I've done this with other clients. So they're coming not only for the investment acumen, the relationship, the advanced planning, the tax orientation of things, but it's also the experience of traveling down this road, okay? We've been down it before. And I think it matters because we have to consistently have conversations with our clients about all of the ways to prepare for retirement, not just one way. This isn't a cookie cutter, off the shelf thing. All ways for retirement. And guess what? It's much further beyond just the finances. Again, like I said, we need to encourage ourselves, and our advisors need to be encouraging you to think about activities and hobbies on both the affluent side and the non-affluent side, because the concerns that I've seen, that's why the study spoke to me, was basically done on wealthy and affluent Americans. But the study that I've done, anecdotally and through experience over nearly 20 years, is a lot of these two blind spots I'm bringing up pertain to everyone. We, I think generally, right or wrong, have an identity in what we do. Sometimes it's good, there's purpose to it, but making sure that our identity transfers over when we choose to not be working or being in that career anymore. And that's true of everyone. Whether, again, you have $1 million in the bank or you got $100,000 in the bank. So these two blind spots, as you notice, have little to do with money. I think that's really key for all of us to make sure that we focus on that. Again, finding your purpose and making sure your purpose transfers, if you will. And the first one, again, is longevity and legacy, understanding what the differences are there. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss a single episode. And always remember to make your money matter.